Today we are going to be reviewing quotation marks. Please be sure you have a copy of the notes before we begin. You will need to use quotation marks around direct quotes. In other words, when you are writing word for word what someone else said or wrote, or even if you're quoting yourself. For example, Mrs. Morton said, "I need a new computer." This is a direct quote. Her exact words were, "I need a new computer." Now, an indirect quote is where you paraphrase what someone says. You do not use his or her exact words. Mrs. Morton said she needs a new computer. Those were not her exact words. So we call that an indirect quote. Most of the time, the first letter of the direct quote is capitalized. So in "Where is your hat?" we have the capital W for where because it's the beginning of our quote and the beginning of our complete statement. "I don't like pizza." This direct quote, the I is capitalized. It would be anyway because we always capitalize the personal pronoun I. And here, "Wait for me," notice that the W is capitalized. The dialogue tag are the words that identify the speaker. The dialogue tag is usually set off with commas. The teacher said, comma, "Please pay attention." When you are done with your work, comma, she said, comma, "You may read." "I can't find my watch," comma, Sally replied. Now notice with the comma, there is no space between the last letter you typed or wrote and the comma. So the comma is essentially attached to this letter. So in the first one, the teacher said, the comma is not going to be inside of the quotation marks. Here in the second example, you have to put the comma right after the K. There can be no space. So it's going to be inside the quotation marks, whereas this comma is not because it's essentially attached to this D. The direct quote is usually a complete sentence and must be punctuated. If it is a statement and ends the sentence, use a period inside the quotes. So, Sally replied, "I can't find my watch." Notice that the period is inside of the quotation marks, not outside of it. Periods always need to go inside the quotation marks if you're using a period. It's like the comma. It's attached to the letter that came before it. George said, "Let's go to lunch." Here we have the period inside the quotation marks. Now, if it is a statement and begins the sentence, we're going to use a comma inside of the quotes instead of a period. "I can't find my watch," Sally replied. So here all we've done is move the dialogue tag to the end. But because we have "I can't find my watch," will end with a comma, not a period. We're only going to be allowed to have that one period in a sentence that has a direct quote in it. So it needs to go at the end. "Let's go to lunch," George said. Notice that we have a comma here, not a period. Sometimes the dialogue tag interrupts the quote. If the direct quote is a single statement, so just one complete thought, use commas to set off the dialogue tag and do not capitalize the dialogue tag or the second part of the quote unless they start with a proper noun or I. So here we have, "For lunch today," he said, "we are having chicken and rice." The complete thought is, "For lunch today, we are having chicken and rice." The dialogue tag is interrupting it. So we're going to have a comma here and a comma here, and notice this is not capitalized. "For lunch today," Bill said, "I packed a ham sandwich." Here, Bill is capitalized because it is a proper noun. Notice we still have a comma here and a comma here. I is going to be capitalized because we always capitalize the personal pronoun I. If the direct quote is a question or exclamation, put a question mark or exclamation mark inside the end quotes. Sally asked, "Where is my watch?" Notice we have a question mark right here because "where is my watch" is a question. Now, Sally asked is a statement. But we can't have a question mark and a period at the end of our sentence. So we're only going to use the question mark, and it goes inside the quotes because where is my watch is a question. You need to note that the he and the she do not have a capital S or capital H because they are in the middle of the sentence that includes the quote and the dialogue tag. So it's let's go to lunch, exclamation mark, quotation mark, he yelled. The he is not capitalized. Okay, so we use quotation marks for other things as well. You use them when you are writing the titles of short stories, magazine articles, songs, poems, and newspaper articles. So if we were to write, we read The Landlady in class yesterday, the landlady would go in quotation marks. It would not be in italics. It would not be underlined. My grandmother's favorite hymn was Amazing Grace. The song title would be in quotation marks, not in italics, not underlined. Now, look at the last one. We read Call of Duty from Scope. Scope is the name of a magazine, and so the magazine is in italics. Call of Duty is an article in the magazine. The article goes in quotation marks. So think of it that way. The smaller things that are parts of the larger things get the quotation marks. So the articles, the songs, they get quotation marks. The magazines, the newspapers, the CDs, they would be in italics. All right, so you're going to add punctuation to these sentences where they are needed. So you're going to pause the recording now and add in the punctuation where it belongs. When you are done, resume the recording so that you can check your work. So pause the recording now, please. Okay, and here are your answers. You need the comma after said. You need quotation marks around I passed my science test. And make sure the period is inside the quotes. Where are you going? Have the question mark inside the quotes. Do not capitalize the she. Tina forgot that you said you were riding the bus home today. This is an indirect quote. You should not have added quotation marks anywhere. Open your book, have a comma and then the quotation marks. So the teacher, comma, more quotation marks, and begin reading the story, period, quotation marks. Okay, if you have any questions about how to use quotation marks, please come see the teacher and I will help you out.